Welcome to Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. In this podcast, we talk about all things travel, rewards, and loyalty. Let's get to it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Travel Buddy podcast, presented by Switchfly. We have a special guest today because we are talking about insurance and peace of mind when traveling. And there are a lot of misconceptions about insurance that I hope we address today. And there's a lot of just ins and outs and details that are very important. But there's also a lot of trends and drivers for why that is the case. So we are going to get into all of that with our guest, Angela Shipman, who is the head of partnerships for Battleface Insurance. Hello, Angela. Thank you for joining
Brandon.
the show.
Thanks for having me today.
And we have also with us the illustrious CEO of Switchfly, Nowell Outlaw. Thank you for joining as well. Hello, Nowell.
Thanks, Brandon. Hello.
So we were just talking before we started recording, the name Battleface. Can we just hit on that real quick? Tell that story. Where does the name Battleface come from?
It's such an interesting name, isn't it, Brandon? And I think it sticks with a lot of people when they hear it. Battleface did get their name from originally insuring journalists that were going into high conflict war zones. And so the whole concept behind the name is that we are putting on our battle face. We're coming along next to you, protecting you, and being there for you when you need it the most.
That's awesome. It is such a cool
name.
And it does stick in my mind. So I'm glad to know that story. It's cool.
Yeah, we love.
So we want to talk about peace of mind and travel. And I want to hear from you first, Angela. What do you think about today's travelers and why insurance is moving from maybe a nice to have to a need to have? That a lot of travelers are feeling this like increased demand, if you will, or drive to purchase an insurance product with their travel. And I would love to hear from you, like, what are you seeing in that shift or in that move? Like, why is it so important, and why maybe you're seeing that kind of demand increase over time? Like, what's going on there, and what can travelers know about insurance because of that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brandon. I think a need for insurance has definitely had an uptick due to a number of reasons. I mean, if you look at the world today, we have a lot going on, and there's a lot of concerns, and there's a lot of worry. I think that every trip is very unique. And so if we look at the data specifically, we see insurance downward trending in certain markets. For example, with airline, when they made their policies more refundable, we didn't see as much as an uptick in travel insurance because that's a very cause-effect situation. But where we do see upticks is, people that have just spent, $20,000 to take their family of four to Italy. And the needs of those two travelers are very, very different. And so when we think about exposure to the world, where we're going, the type of trip that you're going on, those needs, they're really going to vary. If I'm traveling in the domestic U.S. and I'm flying on a company-paid conference trip with my carry-on luggage, I'm not really going to need the same stuff as that family going to Italy, right? So I think that travelers have become a lot more savvy, and we can accredit that to just overall awareness. I think COVID really did start a lot of that awareness in terms of what do you have and are you protected? And it continues. We have social media, we have influencers. You can log on to your phone any time of day and see what's happening in the world. And I really do think that shapes people's decisions on what to buy and who to buy it from. I think it's a very valid thing that people think about.
So if I could maybe summarize, it's a bit of anxiety mixed with a little bit more availability with a little bit more awareness, maybe the 3 A's of what's driving some of this demand. Interesting.
Sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I work with partners like Switchfly and Nowell to think of very thoughtful products. You guys know your customers best, and you know what's going to resonate best there. And so when you put a lot of thought and creation into those products, you're delivering something very targeted to that customer. And so, I think that obviously as well influences behavior when people have trust in your brand.
That's right. That makes sense. Noel, from your perspective as a travel tech provider, where people are actually booking their experiences, and you drive loyalty, and they can bundle together different packages. What are you seeing on the insurance side of things from that kind of platform perspective? How do you see this peace of mind idea driving loyalty or behavior or purchase decisions? What maybe data you guys are seeing or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not. I think Angela's right. So, someone just doing a domestic trip, here to New Orleans and back for 2 days, probably not going to buy that. We just had a booking last week, and it was, family of four, round trip tickets, hotels. It was like a $12,000 booking. God. Probably want to do that because, you never know when something bad's going to happen, right? And, case in point, a friend of mine just went to Italy, right? Guess what? He got COVID, right? Now all of a sudden you have all this stuff, right? And, it can be the thing that, trying to unwind a big complex travel thing, especially if you're like buying, non-refundable things and you have very complex air routing stuff, and it doesn't have to be that hard. All of a sudden you realize the peace of mind is worth it. Right. And just having that buffer, having used, travel insurance personally, my wife now, if it's anything that's a major trip, it's default that she's doing it. Right. Because, you just see in your life where it's like, oh no, or this or that, yep. Or, this has happened or that's happened. And now, you just want to protect yourself.
Okay, I want to dive into this protection and like bad things that could happen, because I realized very naively as we were talking before recording, I actually have no idea what this stuff covers, even though I click the button all the time to add insurance to my flight. And I mentioned to you, and I've said this before on the show, that I'm an American Express Platinum card holder, which comes with certain perks about, I think, I should even read the fine print. I really don't even know, but I think there's like medical insurance, there's lost baggage insurance. I think there's car rental insurance if I put it on the card. But I really don't know the ins and outs and what it actually protects. So, Angela, can you help silly people like me understand what actually is in this insurance product in kind of a general way? What does travel insurance typically cover, and what maybe are some misconceptions that you would see about that? Like, I know you can cancel for any reason, some flights or some insurance products, but like, walk us through this. What are we signing up for when we click that button?
Yeah. So Brandon, what you're saying is you don't want to read the 80 pages of fine print?
I don't. Is that, am I a fool for that? I don't know. I just don't.
That's a joke. That's a great question, and I get that all the time, right? And the complex but simple answer is that it's going to vary depending on the product that you're buying and who you're buying it from and what you're buying it for. So pretty standard what you would see in a lot of insurance plans is going to be something around the lines of covering you before, during, and after a trip. So benefits like trip cancellation are protecting your investment in your trip. You've spent $10,000, $12,000. Now you can't go. It's meant to cover unforeseen circumstances. And so one of the common misconceptions I get around that is, well, I didn't buy my insurance. I'm about to go on this $10,000 trip. I get sick the day before. And from the urgent care hospital bed, I buy insurance expecting it to cover that. Now, it doesn't cover known things, right? Insurance is meant to cover the unknown and the unforeseeable. It would kind of, I don't know, I akin it to like your house blew off, in a tornado cover in a tornado storm or something, and the time to buy insurance was before that tornado hit, not after.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
So that's one misconception that I often see. But common insurance, the basics, as we might call it, is going to cover unforeseen medical things or unforeseen circumstances that might impact you actually being able to go on the trip or once you've departed onto the trip. And one of the most important covers, I think, here in the U.S., we have a strong mindset about covering for our financials and protecting the actual cost of the trip. But oftentimes we're not really thinking about what happens when I'm on the trip, because nobody wants to think about something bad that could happen when they're traveling, and what could be in those situations. You could have a major medical event. You could get in a car accident. You could, have a heart attack. You could, have a situation that happens back home that causes you to cancel that trip and come back. So there's a lot of things that could happen on a trip that certainly aren't fun to think about. But where that peace of mind element comes in is knowing that, hey, if that does happen, I at least have protection for that. And that's usually going to be something in the way of trip interruption. We cover your baggage in case it's lost or stolen. You may have a delay cover, a missed connection cover, things like that just are designed to protect you against unforeseeable things. But I think where a lot of people don't understand insurance is it doesn't cover for change of heart or change of mind. And where I've seen that in the past, might be some things related to maybe anxiety around travel, like things are getting crazy in the world and I don't want to travel here anymore. I don't want to get on a plane. I just saw on social media, a plane turn upside down on a tarmac, there can be a lot of fear associated with travel, especially if you're a younger or a newer traveler. And that's where insurance does have an additional benefit that you can pay a premium for. That's called a cancel for any reason benefit. And that is designed for kind of those things that aren't typically covered under insurance. So I'm afraid to go. I don't want to go. I've broken up with my partner. I don't want to travel with this person anymore. Things like that would be covered under a cancel for any reason for a premium, but not usually something that you see in traditional base coverage.
Interesting. Okay. You mentioned some insurance maybe for after the trip. What does that look like? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, so at least here at battleface, we offer care. So if you were to, let's say, experience a medical emergency while you were abroad, we are a 24/7 staffed emergency medical team that does continue to check in on you. So if we had to bring you home, we want to make sure that if we are medically repatriating you back to the U.S., for example, that we are making sure that we have put you in the proper place to care for your needs. It's close to home, and that you're continuing to get the care that you need. And so we will actually check in to make sure that even though you're home, you're where you need to be, and your progress is going as we should expect.
Fascinating. I've never heard about that. Okay, interesting. I want to jump into talking about maybe the purchase decision around insurance. Is there a particular demographic that is purchasing more or less insurance, or purchasing insurance for certain types of bookings, like maybe just for flights but not hotels, or maybe some experiences, or is there a particular time when people are buying insurance typically? I imagine it's at the point of purchase of the main flight and things like that. But I know some people break up their purchases. And this is for either of you. I'm curious. Like, I know Nowell, you have a lot of experience on the UX side of travel, but and purchasing. But Angela, given your insurance expertise, like, how do you guys see that actual decision taking place?
Yeah, I mean, so Battleface tends to skew towards a bit of a younger demographic. I would say kind of the millennials, the 30 to 40s, just because we do have a lot of comprehensive products that offer for a little outside of the normal travel. I would say like adventure travel, for example. But we have the ability to create a variety of different products just depending on the partner that we're working with. So I would say what goes into, at least for us, is a very consultative approach to make sure that we are, creating the right product for the right partner. And then those buying habits are going to kind of fall in line just depending on, who's looking at that product. A lot of millennials, I would say, or the, 30s, 40s, even up to 50s, they're very thoughtful about covering the entire experience. And so what sometimes happens is that, they might bypass the insurance that's offered with the airline because then they're also going to be getting a rental car and they're also going to be booking, a tour, et cetera, et cetera. And what's important is, I think, to offer a product that can cover all of it, regardless of where it's bought. You want to cover the entire experience. People don't want to be jumping here and there. If you can be the Amazon of travel and offer everything in one spot, I definitely think that is the best experience and leads to the best I would say, adoption rate of travel insurance, because then people feel like, they don't have to go to 20 different places to get all the coverage that they need. They can just get it in a one-stop shop.
We've talked a lot about on the show about the importance of experience and bundling those kind of things with your travel purchases. Has there been, in your view, maybe an increase in experience type bookings, or has there been kind of like a change in the insurance market, if you will, around different experiences that are a little out of the norm from your typical like flight, hotel, car rental kind of purchases? Like, how is that evolving right now as you see it?
Is that for me or for Nowell?
Yeah, mainly for you, but I'm curious to see what you have to say about it.
Yeah. So in terms of just experiences, yeah, I do think that there is definitely a trend. I think there are a lot of influencers out there in the world today, right? And they are sharing kind of what has happened with them and how they've interacted with a product or a brand. And I think that by them sharing their testimonials and things that you can read online really does influence people to really think about insurance in a different way and to consider, hey, instead of just buying an insurance to protect my financial investment with an airline or a hotel, I should probably consider it for all of these other factors. Personally, one of the reasons I fell into insurance, having previously been in a travel agent background, is I use the insurance myself. And I personally had some situations where I leaned on that insurance and I became a huge advocate for it. I think everybody should buy it, whether they do or not. I think there's a use case for pretty much any trip. And so I think the people that do become the biggest advocates for insurance are ones that use it and have probably used it for a variety of different things or have purchased it for a variety of different trips. And you would be surprised. I think if you really look back, especially if you're an avid traveler, if you really look back, you're like, oh yeah, I could have used it here, here, here. I could have used it there, and it could be something small, like you had a delay with your luggage, or it could be something big, like you got really sick and had to go into a hospital. And so covering the whole spectrum of in-betweens, I think that's definitely a trend that we are seeing, that people are looking to have it for the entire trip and not just a segment or a fraction of it.
Okay.
I think, Brandon, I think we've talked about this and other things. Like my wife and I have done, these 100-mile hikes and things like that. I think that when, the further you get off the beaten path, right, you do not know as a traveler if something is going to happen to you. And it could be something completely out of your control, right? It could be, all of a sudden you're having heart pains and you're in the middle of some mountain, you're backpacking, you're doing whatever. And all of a sudden, that's when the, $100 or whatever that insurance, you would have wished you paid for it 20 times over, right? Because especially if you're in a foreign country, right? You're in Peru and you decided to hike up Machu Picchu, and, having done that, it's hard, right? And you see a lot of people doing that hike that you're kind of like, man, I don't know. You may have, the bus might have been a smarter choice, right? And they're, I think because they're on vacation, they're also pushing their physical limits, right? And, in a foreign country, if you're in Africa or even South America, the medical is great once you get there, but you have no clue. You know what I mean? Like, what's this going to cost? They're going to have to do this procedure. They're going to have to do this. They're telling me I need to do this. And it's in a different language most of the time, right? And I think just adding that peace of mind to the equation is massive, right? Not that healthcare costs a tenth of what it costs in the United States, but I think when you're doing these more adventuresome treks, right, and you're trying to be out in the wild and doing these things, it's just something to be aware of, right? And like, why not have this ability to have the coverage and the peace of mind? I think it's hugely important to consumers to have that.
You're reminding me of why I stay inside. But,
I'm telling you, man, if you're standing on the edge of a boat, you're standing on the edge of the boat and you have sharks swimming under it, and you're like, the guy's telling me to jump in. there's this moment of pause where you're like, but it's a shark. And no, I'm going to jump in. No, I'm going to do it. And you're like, okay, I'm just doing it. And it takes a minute, right? Before you can do that. But, you do see, I think the one thing about travel is that people are, one, traveling older, right? And then they're going to places that they probably wouldn't have gone to before, right? And a lot of people in the United States are leaving to go adventure places, right? And there's the physical aspects of it, but I do see people pushing themselves, right? And that's where I think having the added insurance protection is probably a good thing for a whole lot of people.
I think too, Noel, I mean, that's a great point. You don't know what you don't know, especially when you're going somewhere that you've never been. And so, you just see so often that people, they're so excited for the trip, they don't always anticipate what happens. And the stress of that is just enormous. I mean, my friend and I travel with all the time. We have a rule that only one person is allowed to break down at a time because even as seasoned travelers, we encounter very stressful situations. And what you're used to them being handled in a certain way, maybe here in the U.S., it's completely different the way they handle it in another country. And doesn't mean it's wrong, but it creates stress. And so, yeah, having that peace of mind just to know that you have a phone number to call and someone to lean on, I think, is really invaluable.
Yeah. My own experience, I joke about being inside, even though I do like to be inside. But last year we were in London and my 2-year-old daughter got sick. And it was just this bad cold, and it was 2:00 in the morning, and she was shivering and not sleeping. I mean, it was bad. Like, she was like very, very sick. And it was 2:00 in the morning, and we were at a 5-star hotel, and the only person downstairs could not help us. He was like, well, all the pharmacies are closed, doctors are closed. Like, I don't know what to help you do. And so thankfully it was like 5 p.m. back home and we could reach our doctor. But the very next call was going to be the insurance provider. It's going to be the concierge at American Express or somebody. I didn't know who else. I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And that was unexpected. And I'm inside at a nice hotel, So yeah, you just never know.
You never know.
Yeah, I think food poisoning is excluded though, right? Globally.
Is it? I actually don't know, and I need to know this information. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Maybe if you've consumed too much of a certain liquid, perhaps.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That is your doing. Okay, good to know. Okay, so I want to shift gears a little bit as we, this final segment of the show, and talk more explicitly about the partnership between battleface and Switchfly and what you guys are doing together. Particularly is how you're helping folks make that purchase decision of insurance, that it is very valuable, and how to bundle these together and put it as part of this unit. But also, I want to hear the impact you're hoping for other participants in this market, if you will. The kind of business drivers that are really advantageous for folks. So yeah, I would love to hear what are you guys doing and how is it effective?
So maybe I'll start, Angela. So we looked for, I don't know, I think I spent nearly a year, 9 months, trying to find a partner who could service our needs, right? Cool. Part of the issue is, we think about travel on a global scale, right? And not just, hey, we're servicing the U.S., but hey, one of my partners is a global provider of this stuff. And it's also in points, right? It gets very complex, right? And was introduced to battleface, and battleface was able to come up with kind of a structure for us that let our consumers engage in purchase in points and not in cash necessarily. And that is a huge differentiator, because a lot of times the insurance companies are like, no, you have to pay for this in cash. We don't understand this points stuff. Just, I think we went round and round and round and round and round with different people about that. And so, it was a really good fit, right? And battleface, behind the scenes powers huge, massive brands that you probably, I shouldn't say their names here, but like people that are brand names in travel. And so, it's a good fit for us for our customer programs, right? And insurance, what's interesting is when you start talking to a financial services institution, as an example, who has a travel program, travel insurance is a requirement, It's not optional for their members, right? If they're running a travel program and selling air, hotel, all these things, insurance is a core requirement. It's not optional. It's not like, it's like, no, you must have that as an available option for their members, right? And it was a good fit. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So from our perspective, Nowell threw a really interesting problem at us to solve with this as well, because today, he hit the nail on the head. We have a lot of partners that deal with cash only. So that is my job to solve the problems of my partners and meet them where they're at and come to market with a solution that is relevant. And I think it's important that, when we talk about like the battleface Switchfly relationship, we are an extension, or at least I consider us to be an extension of you. And so it's critical that we get it right. We have to get it right. And it has to fit your model. It has to. So, Nowell and I did a lot of thought work, I think, around product design, what it would look like. And then, as we said earlier in this podcast, no two travelers are really alike. That person that's going domestic for a business trip is not the same as the person going to Italy on a family vacation. They're just not the same. And so we kind of tried to do a lot of thought work around not only anticipating what the traveler is going to want and leveraging data around that and modern day events, but also, what is trending in the market today in general? What are people valuing? This is something that we do track and we look at, and we look at different demographics to see who's buying what. And then we can make very informed recommendations with our partners on what to include in policies. And so I think that's really important. I think meeting you guys where you're at with who you're working with is the most important part of my job. And so it's very exciting because once you establish a product like that, you are help building trust. And ultimately, peace of mind is just another way of saying, I trust you and I trust your brand and I trust that you're going to show up for me when I need you. And I trust that I bought this from you and you're going to stand behind it. And that is the peace of mind that we try to deliver with partners like Switchfly. It's very important.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I will tell you that the one thing that Battleface does, which is unique and one of the huge things, is it's one API.
Yes.
So I don't have to go to my engineering team, who, if they're listening to this, which they probably aren't because they're busily working away, that, hey, now I want to do Europe, different API. And now I want to do Antarctica, different API. And I want to do this part of the world in different API. It's a universal thing, and Battleface kind of takes care of the background contracting and unique requirements in those countries. And that just in and of itself is a massive lift. Like every time I turn around and travel, because you see the pictures on TV, you're like, man, travel sure looks like it's fun. Let me tell you, travel is really hard, like really, really hard for those of you that playing at home that are like, I think I want to start a travel technology company. It's super complex, right? With the rules and regulations and insurance has that same level just in its own box of complexities about, can we offer cancel for any reason? Can we offer, trip interruption insurance? Who's the actual end user, right, of the product? And then where are you located in the planet, right? Because North American underwriters will insure people in North America. They might not insure someone in Greece, right? Mm-hmm. So who's actually doing the underwriting? And Battleface takes care of all of that, right? So it's
cool.
It's a massive value add, if you will, for us.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nowell. And we lean on our industry experts on our team that are in those various regions as well. So we do have people sitting in the UK and in Europe and in Australia, and myself here in the US and Canada that tell us, hey, you guys value this here in the US, but over here in Australia, we care more about, medical. We care
swimming
more about
with the sharks.
That's
what it is. It's swimming with the sharks insurance.
Yep. And so you have to take that on a very region-specific approach if you want to be successful there. A lot of nuances for sure.
I love that point, Nowell. Being in tech myself, that may sound like a small thing, but when you have a really solid API like that and thinking and partnering with somebody who is thinking about that kind of thing and being a next generation provider, it's huge. It's huge, 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 huge. That's awesome. Well, Angela, I will leave you with the final word. I have 2 questions for you. One is, what is the big takeaway that you would like to leave listeners with about insurance when they're thinking about traveling from either, business perspective, being a travel provider, or being a traveler themselves? What would you say to them? And second, where are you traveling next?
Oh man, I'm gonna take that second question first. I did just get back from Iceland. It was amazing. So I have not contemplated my next trip.
Okay, how was Iceland? Was it good? I've heard amazing
It was
things.
amazing. Oh yeah, I've been there once before. I came back again because I just couldn't get enough of it. This time I did a hike, Nowell, so you probably would love it. I did a 4-day hike. It was just breathtaking.
Wow.
So where am I going next? I'm not sure. Maybe the Galapagos. I'm not sure.
Oh.
We'll see. I got to think about it. I got to do all the wild and crazy places while I still have my health. But for people traveling, what should they think about? What should they consider? I mean, I think for customers that are looking to buy travel insurance is ensure that who you're buying your insurance from or where you're buying it aligns with your values of a trip, with your needs of a trip, and aligns with your trust. And I think the same kind of message goes for those travel retailers that are offering insurance. You have to know your customer. You have to know what they value. You have to know how to deliver to them, what they're looking for. And you need to be able to make good on your promise to them that you have thoughtfully selected a travel insurance provider that is going to meet their needs. I think those are kind of the 2 things. There's a lot of good people in the market. I know at battleface, we try to bundle everything, everything that you may need, from the tech to the services, to the assistance, everything that you might need. And then we do thoughtful work with our partners just to make sure that we're also delivering what they need. So, yeah. And we deliver that with clarity, with transparency. There's, Brandon, we were talking about it before the podcast. There is an educational element to it as well, understanding what you have and how does that actually work. Leaning on testimonials and reviews. I think those are important. Like you should absolutely lean into that, or that you are working with, a reputable insurance company that's going to be there for you. So that would be my takeaway.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining our show today. This was a lovely conversation, and it just really proves the point how boring of a traveler I am. So thank you both for letting me experience that. But if you're less boring, even if you are a boring traveler and you're a less boring traveler, insurance is key to having that peace of mind and driving even the loyalty. If you're on the travel provider side, the loyalty is huge, and the trust is huge, like you guys pointed out. But on the traveler side, that peace of mind is everything. And it's only continuing to grow as people start to become more aware and more solutions are more available. It's really key. So thank you both for joining the show, and we look forward to talking again.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.